Here we go.
And just
Were you going to say something, Christine?
we can hear the treasurer tax collector loud and clear. So I don't know if there's a way to change that, because we actually can hear Kelly a lot louder than we can hear you. Sorry.
Interesting. I'm going to go ahead and talk.
Okay. Sorry, everyone. I'm like the logistics police when it comes to the Zoom and the COVID-19.
Well, we did have some whistling last night, so
I know.
yeah, we worked through that.
I think it's a little bit better today, right?
Yes. So hey, Jay is headed back in, so hopefully that cleared up the problem. At this point, does everything sound okay? Okay, great. Jay, am I ready to go?
You're good to go, Chief.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, Scott Kelly, I am the fairly new chief, almost 2 months here. So I welcome everybody to the meeting. Again, be patient, and Jay, I've already advised him if he sees a stall anywhere, he needs to get involved. And again, I've got a lot of experience right here. So without further ado, I'm going to get right into it. The one and only item for new business is the discussion on traffic circulation for proposed Cumberland Farms service station, Commercial Street. So representative or whoever from Cumberland Farms, it is your floor.
So I'll do a quick, Tom and Peter, I'll do a quick introduction for you. So Tom represents Cumberland Farms. Tom's with Bacon and Wilson. Peter is the project manager for the development team at Cumberland Farms. We've worked with Tom and Peter now for quite some time. Donna does apologize for not being able to attend, so she's kicked off her responsibilities to me. The purpose of this meeting is to review the updated traffic study, and Tom and Peter can go into a little bit more of the procedural posture, but the charge of the Traffic Commission today is to simply review the traffic study, address any potential concerns or issues that they may have with it, and go from there. So with that, I'll ship it off to Tom and Peter.
Perfect. Thanks so much. And good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Chairman, welcome to the party. So, for the record, Tom Reedy, attorney with Bacon Wilson out of Amherst, here on behalf of Cumberland Farms. We've also got Erin Fredette from McMahon Associates, who is the traffic engineer. She'll be doing the bulk of the presentation. But this is for 4,384 square foot retail convenience store with gasoline filling stations at 95 Commercial Street, the former Al Service Center, and a couple of the parcels around it. Procedurally, we have submitted for a notice of intent, and so we have had one hearing with the Conservation Commission because of our proximity to the river, and so that is in process. We have submitted for a Zoning Board of Appeals special permit to allow 24-hour operation, and that hearing, has to be notified or noticed. I think in April is when we're going to have that, and then we're also going to need Planning Board site plan approval for this project. And so as one of the other pieces that we're going to need is some, I think, recommendation from the Traffic Commission. And so in talking to Jay and Donna, they had helped us set this up. You may be familiar with, this site having been residential, but then the town, I think, wisely rezoned a whole strip of Route 8 just to be more and clean some things up with zoning and to become a little bit more commercial friendly. And, Cumberland Farms is really excited to be, hopefully, one of the first newly permitted businesses in that area. And so, Erin, I'll turn it over to you. Peter, I don't know if you want to add anything, but I think, Erin, I can turn it over to you. If I've got some slides like with architecture, elevation, site plan, which I'm happy to throw up, but, you tell me if you've got anything that you want to show, and then I can certainly relinquish that.
All right. Well said, Tom. I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Again, for the record, Erin Fredette with McMahon Associates. We are the traffic engineers on the project, and I'll just give a brief overview of our study, but we'll of course be happy to answer any questions or go into any additional detail that the commission is interested in. I guess for reference, maybe it's worth just putting up the site plan. Do you have that, Tom, or I can put it up too, already on it. And so we conducted, really revised our traffic impact study from the previous iteration. And as part of our study, we looked at the project site driveways, of which there will be one on Commercial Street and one on Prospect Street. We also looked at the intersections of Commercial with Elm Street and Prospect Street. We utilized traffic data pre-COVID because when we went to revisit this study, we didn't want to use data collected during COVID times because we know it's so different than the typical. So we took some slightly older data and grew it out to a more current, what we would deem typical year, although we don't know what's really going to happen in the future with volumes. But for now, we're using that pre-COVID typical data from the weekday morning and weekday afternoon peak hours. And so we look at the existing conditions, but then we project out into the future. We coordinated with town staff to see if there was anything going on that should be included, such as other developments. We're aware of the MassDOT improvements going on Route 8. But other than that, wasn't anything else that would really substantially change volumes in the future. So we grew them a little bit to account for just general changes in population. But beyond that, didn't make any other additions to the traffic volumes. Then we take a look at what the site's going to generate. And this particular land use pulls a lot of its traffic from the adjacent roadways, what we call pass-by traffic. So people who are already traveling on Commercial Street see the Cumbies and say, oh, I'm going to pop in to get my coffee or gas or whatever it is, and then go back out. And so when we take out that traffic that's already on the adjacent roadways, we're looking at about 30 to 40 new vehicles entering and exiting during those weekday morning and weekday afternoon peak hours. And so that's the new traffic that's going to be added onto the adjacent roadways, including Elm Street and Prospect Street. So once we have all of that information, we distribute those new traffic volumes onto the roadways, and we conduct capacity analysis to understand how the added trips from the Cumberland Farms are going to potentially impact operations on the study area intersections. In the case of this study, looking, Elm Street really didn't change. Elm Street and Prospect Street, the vehicles exiting those two movements, were not shown to have a significant increase in delay. I think we're looking at 3 to 5 seconds, depending on the time of day or the movement on average. And then our project site driveways are shown, the Prospect Street one is shown to operate very well because there's a lot less traffic on Prospect Street. And the driveway on Commercial Street is shown to operate with a little bit of delay, but is shown to operate well under capacity, which means there's more than enough space in between vehicles on Commercial Street in order for them to get out. We also look at sight distance at the driveways to make sure that vehicles entering and exiting can see each other. And based on that analysis, there is sufficient sight distance for both of the site driveways. And for Commercial Street, there's sufficient sight lines for stopping sight distance for speeds up to 55 miles per hour. So knowing that, speeds can sometimes be over the speed limit, we made sure that there was sufficient sight distance for some of those potentially higher speeds. And so with all that, the limited increase in delay on the existing roadways and how the proposed site driveways were shown to operate, we came to the conclusion that the Cumberland Farms project won't have a significant impact on the existing roadways, and that the proposed driveways should operate, efficiently under that future condition. And so again, with that, I'd be happy to go into any additional detail or answer any questions that you may have.
Is there any questions from the commission?
Can you go back to that plan that you were on before? I just had a question. What's that in the front? There's like a blue area in front of the gas. Yeah, that right there.
I believe that's I don't know the specific type of sign, but it's signage. There we go.
Oh, good. Okay, here we go.
I have a question on the two driveways. The one on Prospect Street, that's farther up than the existing driveway to the house that's there now? Farther up on Prospect Street?
Believe
You can see
so.
like the one that's there now to the existing house, it's almost like as soon as you turn into Prospect Street, if you're heading south on Commercial and you take a right, it's almost like if you went straight ahead, you could go up the driveway.
Up the driveway, yeah. No, I believe it's that further back. I think where you see that little
Farther
oval.
back, because I've seen, you know, when cars come south, northbound on Commercial, turn into Prospect. If there was, you know, delay in turning in there, they would stack up and come out at the Commercial Street, but now that, you know, I see it's farther in than that driveway. That's great.
Yeah, so here you'll see where we are. Let's see.
Yeah, you must be up like the second telephone pole,
Yeah.
up on, there's one near the corner and the next one up.
It's working for it. All right, so that's where we are. Yeah, I don't know that I can zoom in, but just to give you a little bit of a sense.
I think that gray rectangle right there is where the existing driveway is. Yeah, right where your cursor is.
Right there.
Yeah.
Pretty much, I think. Oh, yeah, okay. You know, this way here, in case if there are people stacked up to turn in there, at least, because a lot of times coming down the hill on Commercial Street, if you're heading northbound, a lot of people like to cut across traffic to get up Prospect Street. You know, and if there's cars in the roadway, they wouldn't have room to get in. But now that the driveway's up farther, it gives them more room. And the other question was on Commercial Street. You're northbound, you're gonna take a left into that driveway that's on Commercial Street. How wide is the road gonna be after the new reconstruction? If there's cars waiting to turn in, are they gonna be able to pass them on the right? Or are they gonna stack up on Commercial Street? Because I know there's the road construction, you know, happening on Commercial Street. I don't know if there's gonna be a sidewalk put in front of a LATCO, which would narrow the road. You know, what's the travel lane, and is there gonna be a breakdown lane? I know in the report and did the existing, but I didn't see anything for what the new layout's gonna be.
Right, so I'm pulling up the plans for the reconstruction, and I believe there is a sidewalk that's going to be going in across the street. Let me just find. I believe there's also proposed to be a bike lane. So I think there's technically only going to be one travel lane heading northbound. And so, you know, I don't think there's certainly not a wide enough shoulder to have a full car go around. Based on the analysis we did, it does look at how a stopped vehicle waiting to turn left might impact traffic on Commercial Street. And generally we speak in kind of averages. And so over the peak hour, it's not shown to have an impact where there would be a significant queue or even a queue of 3 or 4 vehicles. Not to say that will never happen, but I would say under the proposed condition, it doesn't look like there's sufficient space for cars to go around. And generally, you know, from a safety perspective, it would be better if everybody kind of stayed in the lane, even though it may cause a little bit of a queue in that moment. But based on the analysis, we don't see that kind of queuing happening.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else from the commission?
Aaron?
Yeah.
This is Lisa. I've never seen an impact study before, this report. And on page 21, there's the level of service.
Mm-hmm.
And can you just explain that table to me?
Absolutely.
That is just the delay expected coming in and out of the driveways.
Yes, you got it. And so we use level of service as a tool to kind of break down the amount of delay experienced on roadways. So typically, like level of service A, it's kind of like a report card. Level of service A is the best, level of service F is the worst. And so the table on page 21 shows what we call the critical movement at the unsignalized intersections. And in these cases, it's because it's under stop control. So for example, Prospect Street is under stop control, whereas Commercial Street is free flowing. And so what we're showing in that table are the average vehicle delays for those movements under the weekday morning peak hour and weekday afternoon peak hour. And so with the proposed project in place, we're seeing a level of service D, which is about 25 to 35 seconds of average vehicle delay on Prospect Street and Elm Street. And it's about in that same range under the no build condition, which is the condition without the project. And so we are seeing a little bit of an increase in delay, but nothing that I would consider substantial. And level of service D is what we would typically consider satisfactory operations, particularly at areas where there are businesses and there is some volume. For the site driveways, again, the Prospect Street site driveway operates at level of service A because it's not interacting with as much traffic. The Commercial Street site driveway is shown to operate at level of service D during the weekday morning peak hour and level of service E during the weekday afternoon peak hour. And so, like I was saying, it is shown to have a little bit of that additional delay in the afternoon. But the number that's next to so we have the level of service, the delay, and that last column is the V to C ratio or volume to capacity, which essentially says how much of the capacity on the roadway is being eaten up by the cars that are on there in our analysis. So what that is saying is that about half of the capacity is being utilized at that driveway, which means the other half is still available for additional traffic on either roadway.
Okay, thank you. Just one other question. When in the report, it says that the tankers will deliver through Prospect and around and come out commercial. And if that doesn't happen and it ends up being commercial and coming through Prospect, does that pose any problem with this design? Is there enough room if the truck driver doesn't go through Prospect?
I can take that. They will always go through Prospect. They will always go as shown because two reasons. Number one, a fuel truck unloads on its passenger side for safety reasons. So you actually have the driver on the driver's side. The truck plugs in, for lack of a better term, to the tanks on the passenger side. So it would have to enter through Prospect in order to be on the passenger side of the vehicle, the right-hand side. Second reason is Cumberland Farms uses a standard truck turn template and a standard truck route. So every driver, whether it's the normal driver or the driver who's filling in for someone out sick, will be directed to use that entrance. They really don't deviate from that maneuver because they've measured out that maneuver ahead of time with using software programs that can replicate the truck, and that's how they do it. So it's not something that would be a factor here. It's something that's pre-programmed.
Okay, and that's even for food deliveries too?
For food deliveries, the box truck would most likely use that template because they're about the same.
Okay.
They're about the same size. Yeah, they would most likely use the same as a fueling truck. I can guarantee it for the fuel. I can't say with 100% certainty for the food deliveries, but I imagine they would use the same thing just because if we are bringing a tractor trailer on that site, it's about the same size as the tanker truck. So they'd want to know that they can make that turn and navigate the site.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Anything else from the commission? All right. Does anyone from the public have any questions or comments for our presenters?
I think we're good, Chief. I don't think we have anyone from the public on.
Okay. Mr. Green, considering that, would we be okay with moving forward with the approval of the traffic study?
Yeah, absolutely. Unless there's any recommendations from members of the commission, anything that they saw was of concern. I did speak with Donna. Donna had no concerns, with it at all. It's consistent with what Cumberland Farms has proposed before. They've incorporated some of the feedback from the community development department early on. So there's no concerns from staff unless the commission has any concerns themselves that they would like to see incorporated or changed. Otherwise, I think the commission can certainly just vote to accept it and recommend it move forward. Tom, unless you think in your experience there's something else that should be done.
I'd say a little bit with Commercial Street. there are times when I've seen a lot of cars heading northbound, you know, coming down the hill when they're coming from Pittsfield, getting out of work or whatever. And, you know, it would be nice if there was a little room for to go around it. I do think they will stack up a little bit. 'Cause I've seen it, people trying to just turn it down the street, you know, coming home from work. And I know it's tight to try to go around the car if they're turning into Elm Street because there's a telephone pole there right at the edge of the roadway too. So it's just something I think people are gonna have to get used to.
Right.
It's kind of a way of slowing traffic down, it's a street that they go too fast.
So yeah, that's all, Chief. I think the commission can certainly just vote to accept and make a recommendation to the select board and town staff that traffic study looks good.
Do we have a motion?
So you have to have a motion and then a second, and then don't forget a roll call vote because it's remote. Lisa is remote, so she just needs to, everyone just has to have an affirmative yes or no, and Melissa can call the roll once you have a motion and a second.
Do I have a motion for approval? Thank you.
Second.
All right. Melissa?
Roll call vote.
Yes.
Chief Kelly?
Chief Kelly, yes, sorry.
Yay.
Mr. Sacco?
Yes.
Yes.
That was yes from Mr. Tober.
And Ms. Scazzari?
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a great afternoon. We'll see you soon.
Next
Bye.
Bye.
Motion to dismiss, motion to.
No, you still have a couple other items on the agenda.
All right. Second item, old business. We have none on the agenda.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
I'm going back to last February when Chief Tarsa was the chairman. And we had a meeting about the Susan B. Anthony parade. And since then, we haven't had any meetings, and I believe there's other things on the agenda. I believe Chief Bacon was gonna have a meeting. And just because nobody could get together and meet at the same time, we never had that meeting. I don't know what's on that agenda.
I don't either. If there's anything, Chief, you can, we did speak about that.
Yeah. What we can do is we can schedule a meeting and me and you can, whoever can sit in the office and we can put whatever we need to on the agenda for the next
Right.
traffic meeting.
I don't recall anything specific time. There's no Susan B. Anthony parade, so that doesn't need to relive. I don't know if there are any small,
Yeah, sometimes the selectmen would move things to the traffic commission. I don't know if they have. I think we're going back a year now, over a year, to last February. I think John Duval might have had a concern with something.
we'll check.
He wanted to check with the select board.
We'll
I
check.
think I'm not positive, but it might be something with, cars going fast in residential areas or something to that effect, but you can check with, John and see.
Okay, again,
Yeah.
I would be glad to, and we can, outside of the meeting, I would be glad to host something and
Yep.
then we can move forward, putting it on the next agenda.
You guys can operate now at this point that you have a full commission. As stuff comes in,
Mhm.
as individual members, Lisa, if you get anything from your side or Robert gets something in his position, Tom, or you're out and about, anything either that may come in through your position with the, print it to the chief, bring it to the chief. Chief will talk to Melissa, get an agenda, post it, have a meeting.
Yeah.
I think the last contact we did was regarding Jordan Street and the collapse of the culvert there. We had to turn it into a one-way. I did send out documentation to that effect, but because of the emergency nature of that, we had to proceed on that quickly, so. But there was never follow-up any meeting concerning.
Because this is like one of the concerns I had, down on, Crowell Street, Mill Street, Murray Street, around that area. That's all been reconstructed, and there was like new stop signs installed. And I don't know if they ever were moved on to the town clerk's office, and there's no parking signs up down there also. If that doesn't go to the town, gets approved by the selectmen, and then goes to the town clerk's office and put on file, they're not legal. And if somebody was to get a parking ticket or run a stop sign, they could actually fight it in court and win because they've never been on, in the traffic regs at the
Yeah.
town clerk's office. So I don't know if that's been followed through. I mean, when I was on the board, that's one of the things I always, first I was working in a building, always followed through with Haley to make sure that stuff would happen. I don't know. Been a while now, so I don't know, if that has or not, because,
I think you can look into that with Melissa, Tom, and
yeah, I can check with Haley too, just,
Yes.
I can do that.
Yep.
Just that, we haven't been able to get into the building too much, so it's been hard to.
well, so that everybody knows, and Lisa, for you as well. The building is open by appointment, so if you need to get in the building, Tom, rather than do it by phone, just call up Haley, tell her what time you're coming in.
Yeah, I usually do when I post stuff for constable, we work it out, so.
That's not a problem. The only reason why the building is closed is we don't want to hold massive people in
Right.
here at the same time, but appointments are not a problem.
Yeah, and I think too, for me, if something has been addressed and because of, COVID or the fluctuation in chiefs, I would like to be brought up to speed, so I think that would be a good idea if we could get together at some point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have one thing for good of the order. The traffic signals out here at the center, some of the hands that tell the people to walk or not walk across the street, they've been hit by a truck and they've returned. They've been that way for a while now. If maybe you get DPW, somebody just loosen the nuts and turn them and retighten them.
Maybe not.
Yeah, out here at the center,
Okay, yeah.
the pedestrian signals, the ones that have hand, they're not facing the right way. They've been held.
Thank you so
That's
much.
the guy right there.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, we have obviously moved in for the good of the order. Anyone got anything else? Okay, not hearing anything, I call for adjournment.
That also has to be a motion, a second, and a roll call vote.
I make a motion to adjourn at 4:05.
I'll second that.
I hear a second. Melissa?
Chairman, I apologize.
Yes.
Mr. Sacco,
Yes.
Mr. Tober,
Yes.
Ms. Gazoy,
Yes.
Chairman at 4:05.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Lisa.
Bye.
Bye.
So then when you want to end, once you hit stop recording.